Hi everyone, in this particular video we will understand about IP addressing more. This is a part 2 and we have already recorded the part 1. If you haven't watched the part 1, you may go and check the YouTube channel. The playlist you should get the part 1 of the IP addressing. Now in this particular part 2 we will talk about subnetting and we will understand more about it, that how you can do it manually. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So now, what is the subnetting? Okay, so IP subnetting is a very important concept when it comes to the understanding about the IPs. So subnetting is a process of dividing a large network into the smaller, and so that they will be more manageable. So, and that's what we call as a subnet. So you can just assume that we have a very big group of pool of IP, and now when we have to convert that a big pool into the small pieces, so there we use the IP subnetting. Now why we do that? Okay, so here let's understand first of all more about it. So subnetting involves borrowing the bits from the host portion of an IP address to create a multiple smaller networks within a large network. Let's walk through an example of subnetting. So we'll understand the subnetting example, but before that, let's understand what exactly subnetting is. So just assume that you have a big pool of IP pool. Like let's say here you have big pool of IP pool. Now what you can do is, so let's say we have this particular big pool of IP that is given to us. Okay. Now we want to give this IP pool to our customers. Okay, but now in this case, just assume that if we just assign the whole big pool, in that case there is a high chance that the IP wastage might happen. Okay, so let me give you example. Okay, let's suppose that we have any series of IPC, the class C IP. Okay, let's say here we in the previous session we already have discussed about the classes. Okay, so we have the three types of IP or five types of IP classes: class A, class B, class C, and class D and E. So let's say if I'm talking about the class C IP example, so it could be the 192.168 0.1 or something like that. Okay, and default CIDR value for this particular IP class is the 24. Okay, now here in this particular example, let's say how much, like what this CIDR value is denoting, that the first three portion, like this is 8-bit, this is the 8-bit, and this is 8-bit. Okay, so 8 threes are 24. So all of these bits are what? These all bits are the all these bits are the static one, and only thing that can vary is this is the one. Okay, so this particular position can vary. So in this example, like 192.168.0.0/24, we will have, so this is what, this is the pool. Okay, this is the IP pool. So we can get the 0 to 255 IP. So this field can vary from 0 to 255, so that we will have the total number of IPs here, that is the 26, sorry, 256. Okay, so we will have the IPs that will be equal to the 256. Now if let's say we have somebody, a customer, okay, or just assume that any of the ISP or within the office network, admin wants to provide this IP pool to any of the department. Okay, and that department just required the 50 IPs. Okay, so if he assign this whole pool to them, in that case the total IP pool size is what? It's a 256. Now customer requires only 50 IPs, right? So in this case, like there will be the wastage of somewhere around like 190 IPs will get wasted. Okay. Now that's the reason we would like to convert this big pool, okay, into the small pieces, and that's what we call as a subnetting. Okay, so here we have, this is a big pool. Okay, this is a big pool we have, and now we would like to do the subnetting. Like we will create the small pieces by changing the CIDR value, and that's what we call it as subnetting. Now how to do it? So it's kind of a, we have to do some calculation. There's something, some complex calculation is also involved there. We will understand that by an example. Okay, but before that we will understand one more thing. And what's that? So here, this is what the default subnet class we have. Okay, so as I already mentioned, that we have the already IPs distributed into the classes. Okay, so class A, class B, class C. Okay, and if I talk about, let's say, class A, so default value, that CIDR value is what? It's a /8 we have. Okay, now what is mean by that? And class IP A is ranges starts from like 0 to it's a 127. Till that range we have that class A IP. So if I talk about class A, so it is having the default IP header value, that is a /8. So if I take example, let's say here 10 dot series, if I consider, okay, 10.0.0.0/8, if I write something like this, what does it mean? That this /8 means what? This first portion is going to remain static, and the next of the portion, that portion we called as a host portion. Okay, and the first portion, like here whatever this is denoting, okay, like this /8 means that this portion we called as a network portion. Okay, so this will be the network portion. Okay, this will be the host bit, this will be the host bit, and this will be the host bit. Okay, so like that, here total number of IPs, that how many we will get it. Okay, like total how many IPs we will get it if we wish to calculate that. So you can just put a simple formula here, that let's say this is a 2 raised to 8, like this is the possibility of this particular variable will, this particular this particular digit will change, that the possibility that we have is 2 raised to 8, then here also 2 raised to 8, and here also it's a 2 raised to 8. So in total we will have, that is the 2 raised to 24. Now that figure is quite big. Okay, like if I calculate that, okay, it will be in some millions, okay, or billions. So I am not sure exactly how many we'll get, but that's a kind of a very huge figure we'll definitely get for this is the value that we'll get. Okay, so those many possibilities we have by having this kind of a pool. Okay, now maybe particularly when we are using this 10 dot series with the /8 series, okay, we might not require this big pool. We would like to cut down that into the small pieces, so that I can use it in a different networks. Okay, so now like and then how those possibilities can be derived, like if I give example here, how I can have those many IPs. Okay, so let's say here I consider the very small simple example, like 10.0.0.0/8 is the pool that we are having. Now what could be the first IP that we can have here? Probably like here we have a 0 digit. So yes, that is what the first possibility IP that we can have. The next IP I can have is like a 10.0.0.1. Okay, like here 0, then 1. Okay, then the next IP I can have is like 10.0.0.2. Okay, and then what could be the next one? So the next one I can have it as the 10.0.0.3. Okay, like that, 1 2 3 4, and like that, how much the last value here I can have, like here 3 4 5, how, like till what it can go. So maybe the last figure I can here it I can have is like 10.0.0.255, right? So when this all digits, so this is the decibel digit, when we convert this into the, like this is the octet representing the decibel value. Behind the scene it is the binary, and that too with the 8 bits. So when we will have all the ones, okay, like 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1, like these are 4 plus 4, like this 8 bits, when we will have 1, so that value in decibel it would be the 255. So in total I will have the IPs as the, here the last digit I can have as the 255, right? So now this is the possibility that I can have from this last digit. Now let's say I want to add, I just want few more IPs also. Okay, like here I have to proceed further. So maybe what I can do is like I just want to have a next IP. So now next IP I can have it something like 10.0 dot. Now this cannot go further. Okay, this cannot be the 256. Okay, so what the next possibility IP I can have here is, like here I need to add one here. Okay, here I'll write it like 1.0. Okay, so here 255, like the next IP I can have is like I have to just like add one here. Okay, and then 1.0, the next possible IP I can have. Okay, then further the same thing will carry on. Okay, like 10.0.1.1. Okay, and like that 1 2 3, like that the next IP I can have. Okay, so 10.0.1.2. Okay, like that I can have again have this as 10.0.2, or like before going to 2. Okay, here I can have the last IP as 1.255. Okay, last possibility. And then again when I'll have the 255, again I can just add one here, so it will be the 10.0.2.0. Okay, and the same thing will happen, like now as we are going ahead, okay, so this will become 255, then 3, okay, again 255, again 3, 4, like that. This will again go up to 255, and once we reach to 2 of 255, like this figure, when we reach to 255, so the next IP, the next possible IP here I can have is like 10.1, like here instead of 0, that will become 1, and that, like here again it will become a 0.0. Okay, so like that, this is the way that we can have the multiple IPs. Okay, now 1, then this will become 2, like that it will just go on. Okay, the next IP here I can have is 10.1.0.1. Okay, like that. I hope you got the point. Okay, now if I just calculate like this, okay, so this is like a very big calculation for me to do. Okay, that's the reason I told you here the like simple formula. So if I'm having all the, like, how many values here I have to change, okay, how many figures I have to vary here, so just put 2 raised to 8, and this many possibilities of IPs I can have. Okay, so this is how I can calculate the how much IPs I'm getting. Okay, so when I say I'm having the /8 CIDR value, so just put that as a like total number of bits I'm having, the 32 bit. Okay, so just subtract that the CIDR value from that, and this many possible IPs. So here in this case 32 minus 8 is equal to a 24 we're getting. So this many possibility, like 2 raised to 24. Okay, that's this many possibility I'm having as a number of hosts. Okay, now this is not actually a number of hosts, we have to subtract the -2 from that. Okay, like, and then for what, so let's say here whatever the IP I'm getting, okay, if you want to calculate the total number of hosts, so we have to subtract the 2 IPs from that. The reason, the first and the last IP is something that we cannot use. Okay, the first IP we called as a network IP, and the last IP we called as a broadcast IP. So those 2 IPs are not usable. That's the reason we cannot use them either. So we just need to subtract 2, and that is the number of hosts we will get it. Okay, so this is what the basic example here we have, and for class A, this is a default value. Okay, this is a default value, that is /8, the default CIDR value we have. Okay, and like that for each class there is some fixed CIDR value we have. Okay, so if I give you example, so that's what here in the next slide I have mentioned. So for class A, the default CIDR value we have as /8. Then for class B, it's a /16. For class C, it's a /24. Okay, now this is the default value we have. Now this is the default one, right? But default value, whenever we are applying the default subnet, okay, so in that case there is a chance that we might be wasting some of the IPs. Okay, so that's the reason we do a subnetting to save the IPs. Okay, so that's what the subnetting is all about, that converting your big IP pool into the small pieces, so that they will be the more usable. Okay, more usable, and we would like to stop usage or wastage of the IPs. Okay, so that's what our goal is. And now let's take the example. Okay, so here we will take one example, and with that example we will try to understand the how we can calculate the subnets. Okay, so here in this case, okay, here I have just like put one example. Okay, now here we're gonna assume that we wish to have 50 hosts per subnet. Okay, and I have considered the 192.168.0.0/24 as an example. Okay, so let's discuss this example. So in this particular example, the IP pool we are going to consider is the 192.168.0.0/24. Okay, now as you can see, this is a class C IP. So default subnet is what we have, the default CIDR value here we have as what we have the /24. Okay, now by just looking at the example, okay, you can guess that how many IPs we can have. So here this and this and this. Okay, so this is the reserve field we have, and only last field can vary. What does it mean? That we can have the 2 raised to 8 possibilities, so 256 IPs we can get it here. Okay, now so from 0 to 255, so that's a 256 IPs, and then again from that if I subtract 2, so 254 IPs are the number of hosts that we get it. Okay, that like first and last IP we cannot use, but so by that formula we can have the usable IP, that is a 254. Now let's say we have a requirement of only 50 hosts per subnet. Okay, that's what our requirement is. Okay, so what requirement we are saying or we are talking about, that you just required a 50 number of hosts. Now here in this case, okay, here in this case, if we just understand that this CIDR value is providing us the this is providing us what, the 256 pool. So there will be the huge wastage of the IP, around the 190 IPs will get wasted. Okay, and that's the reason we are looking for to convert this big pool into the small pieces, and to utilize this particular big pool in an efficient manner. Okay, and how you can do that? So by subnetting. Okay, so let's understand, okay, how you can do that. So here requirement is what? So how you can calculate? The very first thing here, requirement of IP pool is what? It is a 50. Okay, so just find out the digit which is the 2 raised to power some value that will be the close to this 50 number, or in fact we have to exceed that particular figure. Okay, so let's say here I'll give you the example. I'll calculate, let's say 2 raised to 2. What is the value here I'm getting? Is 4. Okay, 2 raised to 3, I'm getting the value as 8. 2 raised to 4 is what? It's a 16. Then if I calculate 2 raised to 5, it's a 32. Okay, so is 32 is bigger than 50? No. Okay, just keep carrying on. Keep carry on. 2 raised to 6 is what? Something I'm having as 64. Now 64 is what? This is the nearest possibility that I can have to this figure. Okay, that's a 50. So I may go and then consider the 64 bit of pool. Okay, so I can consider this as a 64 number of hosts for subnet. Okay, now you will say that, okay, here we, the example we have as 50, we just have a requirement of 50, and you are providing us the 64, the number of IPs per subnet. So yes, there is a wastage. Okay, there will be a wastage of few IPs, but that's what the maximum, okay, we can go up to. So we will have some IPs wastage, but earlier in the case where the IP wastage was somewhere around 190, now we will be reducing that to just 14 or 50, right? So that's a very less count. Okay, very less wastage we will have. So now what we are going to do is we will be converting, or we will be creating the IP pool which will have 64 number of hosts per subnet. Okay, so that's what something we can do. Now here what figure we got, this is something, the figure is very valuable one. Okay, that is a 6. Okay, right now when you see, like here when we have is like /24, so here the things goes like this is 8. Okay, 8, 8 and 8. Okay, or if I write that again, okay, so 192 168 0.0/24. Okay, so here we have the network bits, and we have the host bit. Okay, so in this example, okay, in this example we have this is the network bit. Okay, this is the network bit, and this is also network bit, like 88824, and this is the only portion we have as host. Okay, now what we have is like this is the host, last portion we have as host. Okay, now what we want, this is the host portion we would like to keep. Okay, now right now we have, this is the 8 bits. Okay, like right now we have that, this is the 8 bits. With this 8 bit, we just we this is the host portion we have. Now instead of this 8, we would like to make it this 6. Okay, instead of this 8, we have to convert this to 6. Now where the 2 bits will go? Okay, so if I'm converting, like here, if I already have by default as 8, and I have to make it 6. Okay, so host portion, if I have to make it 6, so where the remaining bits will go? So those remaining bits will get add on here. Okay, this extra bits will go add on here, and instead of this, like earlier example 888, that's a 24 we have, so we will be adding that plus 2. Okay, so that's a 24 plus 2, it is going to be 26. Okay, so instead of this 20/24, okay, instead of this /24, we're gonna have as what? We're gonna have as /26. Okay, so the CIDR value, okay, the next CIDR value we will have as the, so the pool. Okay, like we have to convert this one. So the very first pool we will have something like a 192 168 0.0. Okay, and instead of this /24, okay, we will have as what? We will have the /26. Okay, now when we are making this /26, okay, so what we are considering, the pool, okay, the, like this value, this, okay, so this will be total equivalent of /26, and here, okay, here this will be with the 6 bits, okay, or six like host portion we have. Okay, now the next pool, okay, the next pool here we will have is like 190 to 168. So instead of this 0, okay, because here 0 to like the scenario is going to be like this pool will start from 0 IP. Okay, this pool will start with a 0 IP here, 0 portion, and the next pool we will have something like a 192 168 0 dot. Now we are utilizing the portion, right? So here 0 to it is going to be the 63. Why 63? So here, as per example, just look at, okay, 2 raised to 6 is what? It's a 64. So we are taking the 64 IPs from this, like this is going to be the pool of 64 IPs. So 0 to 63 means what? It is going to be the 64 IPs. Okay. So this is going to be the pool. So it is going to be the first IP. Okay. Our first pool we will have here as 192, 168, 0.0 to 192 168 0.63. Okay, so here is 1 0 1 2 3 4 like up to 63. In total 64 IPs. Here we will get it in the first pool. Okay, so something the requirement we have satisfied, and like that how many pools that we can create. Okay, let's talk about that. So the very first pool, this is going to be the very first pool. The next pool will start from 64 now. Okay, the next pool here will start from the 64. So just keep adding the 64. Okay, so if you want to calculate the basically like for subnet, the new subnet, what will be the new subnet? So like first example 192.168.0.0. Okay, the next pool just add the 64 into it, and that's how you can calculate. Okay, so here 192.168. Okay, the next pool 192.168 0 dot. Here instead of this 64, here instead of 60, so 60 till 63 we have already utilized in the first pool. So the new IP pool is going to be the 64 slash 26. Okay, the third pool, okay, the third pool here we will have is like 192 168 0 dot, just add the again the 64 to it. Okay, so it's going to be the 128. Okay, so here we will have is 128. And again there will be the one more pool that we can have. Okay, so here the new pool, okay, the new pool, one more pool we can have it, and then it's going to be the 192 168. Here the 0 dot, again add the 64 to it. Okay, so that will be the 192. Okay, so that will be the 192. So this is going to be the last pool we can have, and then when you add that again the 64, so that will be the equivalent of 255. Okay, so earlier example, okay, in earlier example, like we were having, we had the very big pool, that's a 192.168.0.0/24. Now that big pool we have converted into the small pieces. So here, as per our the subnetting, okay, instead of this /24 we will have at /26, and then this IP is going to be 192.168.0.0/26. Okay, so 64, this is going to be the starting IP for each subnet, and then this is the way that we will have a total number of IPs, which is like the as per host requirement. You had a requirement of 50 hosts per subnet, so that you can have it as like, and then how many host IPs you can get it here. Okay, like how many exactly host IP you can get it here. So how you can calculate that? So again what I said is like first IP and the last IP, those you cannot use, right? So here 0 to 63. Okay, so from that the like total number of IPs is what, it's a 64. Subtract 2 from that, so the total number of IPs that we can have it here as the 64 minus 2, and it's gonna be the 62. So this is the minimum size of pool that you can get it. Okay, the best you can get up to 62 IPs. Okay, even though your requirement was 50, so you will not get exact 50 IPs, but you can reach up to 62. So that's how you will be, utilizing the maximum number of IPs within your subnet. Okay, so this is the first example which is giving us idea about how we can convert your default subnet into the smaller subnet. Okay, and now let's take one more example here. Okay, we're gonna have one more example. In the second example we'll just understand one word. Okay, I know this could be a little confusing also at the same time. Okay, but if we have one more example, probably that will solve all your queries. So let's go ahead and talk about one more time for the second example. Okay. Now the next example we have is like a 10 dot series IP. Okay, and here let's take example. This is a new example. We'll take it. Okay. So now, as per the new example, the IP pool we are going to consider is going to be the 10 dot series. Okay, and our requirement is going to be the 200 IPs this time. Okay, our requirement is going to be the 200 IPs this time. Let's see how we can proceed and how we can how we can satisfy this requirement. Okay, so the very first thing here, I'll just write the what example here we have. So it's a 10 dot series IP pool we have, which is a private IP class A. Okay, and which is the biggest pool, kind of biggest pool, because when I say /8 means that like here I can have is like this 10 dot series is going to be the static one, and so this portion is reserve. Okay, so I can call this as a network, and rest of the all fields are the host field, right? So here we have H and H. Okay, so the 2 raised to 24 digit of the combination I can have it as IP. So it's a I will have somewhere around 16 million IPs. Okay, here now this is a really big pool, right? So here requirement is what, like here as per example we just have requirement of 200 IPs. Okay, now again you will apply that formula again, like 2 raised to you will go on, and if I start from the one, okay, that will take time. So I'll start from, like, let's say 2 raised to 5 is what, it's a 32. Okay, then 2 raised to 6 is what, it's what, it's a 120. No, it's a 2 raised to 6 is what, it's a 64. Then 2 raised to 7 is going to be the 128, and 2 raised to 8 is going to be what, it's going to be the 256. Okay, now you just require the 200 IP. So correct. So now, like, between this range, right, between this range you will have that number of IPs will get satisfied. So you can have as, this is the host portion is your requirement right now. You have what, you have host portion requirement size. Okay, if you just calculate this total number of host bits, it's a 24. Now instead of that, your requirement is going to be, that is a slash, like here you just have the 8 bits that you require. Now, so you want to convert the rest of the all bits. Okay, so here you just required 8 bits instead of this 24. So this portion and this portion you will be converting into the network bits. Okay, and then if I calculate that, so it is 8 8 8. So here instead of this 8, you wish to put it as like /24, and that's how you can convert your bits. Okay, so as per your requirement, so instead of this 8 you have to make it /24. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, now so here this portion, like understanding this, how this figure comes is very important, guys. You have a requirement of the 200 IPs, so you will reach out to the nearest possible figure of 2 raised to 8 bit, and then that's what I can call as a host portion. Okay, so this is my host portion is right now. Host portion, what I have is like something a very big one, that's a 24. So I will convert the rest of the field, okay, into the network portion, and the network portion should look like this way. Okay, the network portion should look like this from this. Okay, so what I can have is like here, this is what my IP pool is, 10.0.0.0/8. Okay, so I am having this big pool, and if I start calculating the subnet, like the very first pool that I can have here is going to be what, it is going to be the 10.0.0.0, and here instead of this /8 I'm gonna write /24. Okay, now what is the meaning of this /24? So the first 3 bit, okay, like here this and this, okay, this 3 portion are going to remain constant, and only this one can vary. Okay, now this can vary from 0 to 255, right? This can vary from 0 to 255. So, and that's how I can have that 256 number of IPs here. Okay, now this portion is filled up. Okay, this portion is filled up. So the next possible IP here I can have is what, like here once when I say /24, so the last IP here I can have is like 255. So the next possible figure I can have is like 1. Okay, here I can have is 1. So the next portion here, it is going to be the 10.0.1.0/24. Okay, so this is the next pool is going to be. Okay, so let's go ahead, and then here you can, like, till what you can just go, so you can just have all you can have so many fields here, right? So this can vary, this can vary, this can vary, right? So right now you're just playing with this last figure. Okay, so here you just like take second pool. The third pool you can have is like 10 dot, then 0 dot, then 2.0 slash 24. Okay, and like that it will just go on. Okay, it will just go on till what? So till here, like once you will say this is like a 2, then 3, then 4, like that you will go. Okay, and then once you reach up to this 255. Okay, once you reach up to this 255, then again here we have one subnet reserve, right? So you can fill it up with 1 dot. Okay, like here 1 dot, 2 dot, like 1 dot, 0 0. Okay, like that again you have so much possibilities. Okay, so that's how you will be converting this big pool into the small pieces like this, and then you have still a very a number of possibilities, like how many subnets you can create from this. Okay, how many subnet, exactly how many subnets you can create. So if you see the possibility that so here you're creating this portion of each 255. Okay, this portion you are creating with 255. So 255 pool is getting reserved. So the only possible variable values like here you can have is like this way. So this digit and this digit. So it's going to be the 2 raised to 8 and 2 raised to 8. So it's a 2 raised to 16. So almost 65,536. These many subnets you can have. Okay, and each subnet will have a 255 or 256 IPs. Okay, so like that here the IPs will get calculated. Now here, if you see the possibility that we are getting still like here the subnet possibility is still it's like a 65,000 IPs that we are getting. Okay, so yes, this is what the second example in which I wanted to give you more understanding, like the same way how we can calculate the subnets. Now, if I calculate this examples in real time, okay, it might be confusing. Plus, it's also the time consuming task, right? So, can we have something a shortcut solution for this? Okay, now as per understanding, you should have the understanding definitely about the IP subnetting, how it works, but do we have any shortcut for this? Like, I don't want to calculate this all these things. So probably yes, you can just go on internet and you can search for it. Okay, like what you can search, you can maybe calculate. Like you just go and say subnet calculator, and if I go and then like we have a different calculators in which you can just put your IP with which subnet you would like to check. So what CIDR value you would like to put. So that can give you different all information that what is the IP address you will have, the network address. Network address means what? The starting address, the usable host IP starting from 1 to last what IP you can have, total number of hosts you can have it. So you can just get all the information like this. Now why we are doing this? Okay, like overall this IP subnetting, why we are doing it? Can you just tell me the any of the use case? So yes, you can have its use case like let's say we then now in a cloud area especially we have something the VPC. Now VPC for VPC we consider some IP pool. Now the maximum value that we can have uh, in the example, like we can have as like a /16. Okay, so /8 is not allowed. Okay, why? Because we have so many possibilities here, and then for AWS it is going to be the big challenge to handle these many IPs, and that's the reason the maximum pool allowed in the case of AWS network is the /16. Okay, so you can just use the same example here, but the only difference is going to be in case of AWS here the 10 dot 0 dot 0 dot 0, the maximum IP you can have is like a 16 pool. Okay, so just assume like this is the VPC pool you have considered. Okay, this is the VPC pool you have considered. Now you want to convert this big pool into the small pieces. How you can do it? So for that purpose, in fact, in like online you can get some of the AWS VPC calculator. So you can just say AWS VPC subnet calculator, something like that. You just search it, and you have so many websites that can directly tell you the reason. Okay, now that's the best way you can just go with. So you just read, okay, usage example 1, usage example 2. Okay, like that you can have it. So let's say here IP network you have example like let's say 10 dot here as per our example it was a 10.0.0, and this is what your existing subnet pool is. And here which pool you would like to convert. Okay, if it is /24, like here in the previous example we convert that into the /24, right? So you can just say earlier it is /16. Okay, earlier you have figure as /16, you want to convert into the /24, just say calculate, and here you can get the 256 subnet, you can have it, and these are the subnet ranges. Okay, so 10.0.0.0, okay, that's the first one. 10.0.0, that's the second subnet pool. This is the third one. Okay, you get all the things calculated directly. Now this could be the very helpful when you don't want to calculate anything. Okay, but you should have a good understanding about the host. Okay, now here you can see the total usable host you are getting is somewhere around the 251. Okay, now you can again ask me the question, like in the previous example you just told us that, let's say if you're getting the 256 IPs, so subtract the 2 IP from that and all the IPs are usable. So in this example, like when we do a /24, in that case we were getting the usable IPs like 256. So yeah, and then subtract 2 means it's a 254. Why it's showing us 251? Okay, so please try to understand that the AWS reserve the 3 more IP for its own work. Okay, whenever you have any subnet, so apart from this network IP and the broadcast IP, the 3 more IP AWS reserved for its own work, and that's the reason the total usable host you can have is like a 251. Okay, so this is the way that we do the subnetting. Okay, so cutting a big story short, okay, here the subnet calculator is something you always have with you, but you should have the understanding about subnetting. So these are the two examples. Hopefully, probably you might have got some understanding about IP subnetting. So thanks for watching this subnetting session, and please do like and share, subscribe this particular video if you like my content. So see you in the next session, guys. Have a good day. Bye bye.